The doorbell chimed at exactly 7:43 p.m. on a chilly Tuesday evening in Seattle. I froze, fork halfway to my mouth, the pasta I'd cooked myself growing cold. Nobody just drops by my place unannounced. DoorDash? Nah, I stopped relying on delivery years ago. I've been whipping up my own meals since I was scraping by in college. Curiosity tugged at me as I set the plate down and headed to the door, my socked feet padding softly on the hardwood floor of my Queen and Victorian home, a house I bought with my own sweat and savings. I swung the door open, and the sight nearly made me laugh at the universe's twisted sense of humor. There stood Laura and Robert Miller, my parents, looking smaller than I remembered, their gray hair catching the porch light. Their faces carried something new, something heavy. Despair? Guilt? I couldn't quite pin it down. It had been years since I last saw them, and time hadn't been kind. "Sarah, honey," Laura's voice cracked, barely above a whisper. "Can we come in?" I crossed my arms, leaning against the doorframe, the cool night air brushing my skin. "Depends. You lost or something?" Robert cleared his throat, his eyes starting to the ground. "Please, Sarah. We need to talk." Talk? That was rich. The last time we talked, Robert told me I was being dramatic about not having enough for textbooks, while Laura nodded along. Still, I stepped aside, letting them in. Not out of kindness, curiosity's a powerful thing, and I'd waited years to see them squirm. They shuffled into my living room, looking out of place against the sleek leather couch and the art I'd picked up from local Seattle galleries. Laura's eyes scanned the room, probably pricing every piece in her head. Robert just stood there, hands stuffed in his coat pockets, avoiding my gaze. I sat across from them, legs crossed, waiting. Whatever brought them here, it wasn't a social call. And I was ready to hear it. Laura and Robert sat stiffly on my leather couch, their discomfort as obvious as the Seattle rain pattering against my windows. My home, a testament to years of grinding through 3 jobs and late-night study sessions, seemed to unsettle them. Good. I wanted them to see what I'd built without a single dime of their help. I leaned back in my armchair, the silence thick, daring them to speak first. "Sarah," Laura finally said, her voice shaky, "this place, it's beautiful." "Thanks." My tone was flat, sharp. Turns out, working 3 jobs through college teaches you a thing or two about managing money. Robert flinched, his hands twisting in his lap. "About college," he started, then hesitated, like he knew the minefield he was stepping into. "Oh, you mean when you drained my college fund to send Claire to that fancy business school in San Francisco?" My voice stayed calm, steady as the Puget Sound, but each word cut. "When I was eating instant noodles for 2 years straight, working night shifts at that greasy diner on Capitol Hill, taking out loans I only paid off last year." Laura's eyes dropped to the floor. "We made mistakes," she whispered. "Mistakes?" I let out a dry laugh. "You were pretty damn sure of yourselves back then. Told me Claire's education was an investment in the family's future. Funny how I wasn't part of that future." The air grew heavy, the kind of tension that makes your chest tight. Robert shifted, his face reddening. We thought it was the right choice at the time." "Right for who?" I leaned forward, my gaze pinning them both. "Because I remember begging you not to take that money. I remember crying on the phone, saying I couldn't afford textbooks. And you, Mom, told me to work harder. You, Dad, said I'd figure it out. Well, I did. No thanks to you." Laura's lip trembled, but I didn't soften. I'd carried this hurt too long, and now they were in my house, on my terms. Whatever they wanted, it was gonna cost them more than a few apologies. The truth was coming, and I was ready to lay it bare. The tension in my Seattle living room hung like fog over Elliott Bay. Laura and Robert sat hunched, their excuses about my stolen college fund still echoing. I was about to press harder when Robert's voice broke the silence, low and unsteady. "We're here because Claire's life isn't what it seems." I raised an eyebrow, already knowing more than they thought. "You mean the divorce? The credit card debt? Or how she's been dipping into your retirement savings?" Their jaws dropped, eyes wide with shock. They hadn't expected me to know. As a product manager at one of Seattle's top tech firms, information was my currency. I'd seen the cracks in Claire's perfect facade, her messy split from David, the $50,000 in debt, the loans she'd sweet-talked out of their Portland nest egg. They thought I was still the overlooked kid, not the woman who'd built an empire of her own. "How did you?" Laura started, but the doorbell cut her off, sharp and insistent. I didn't need to check the peephole. "Come in," I called, and Claire stormed through the door, her designer purse swinging like a weapon. Her face was flushed, her eyes blazing. "Mom, Dad, what are you doing here? I told you I'd handle it." "Handle what, Claire?" I crossed my arms, voice cool as the Puget Sound breeze. "The mess you made? The money you burned? Or are you scheming to con them into selling the Portland house to cover your tracks?" "You don't get it," Claire snapped, stepping closer. "Some of us have real careers to maintain, real responsibilities." I laughed, sharp and bitter. "Right. Because scraping by on night shifts at a diner while you partied in San Francisco was me dodging responsibility." "Try again." Laura's voice broke in, trembling. "We're losing everything, Sarah. The house, our savings. You're our only hope." I stood, smoothing my sweater, every inch of my success a silent rebuke. "Funny. I said those same words to you 15 years ago when I begged you not to take my college money. Guess what you told me?" I paused, letting the memory sting. "You said, you'll understand someday." "Well, I do now." The private room at Camless buzzed with quiet tension, the Seattle skyline glittering through the windows. I'd chosen this upscale spot to unsettle Laura, Robert, and Claire, just fancy enough to make them squirm, not so flashy they could call me a show-off. Jessica and Michael flanked me, my trusted allies, as we faced my family across the polished table. A stack of papers sat in my bag, my leverage, my terms. Laura and Robert arrived first, looking like they'd aged overnight, their eyes hollow. Claire swept in 10 minutes late, her silk dress probably costing more than their Portland mortgage payment. She glared at Jessica and Michael. "Really, Sarah? You need backup." "They're witnesses," I said, pouring myself a glass of Pinot Noir, my voice smooth as the wine. "And moral support. For what's coming." "What's that supposed to mean?" Robert's tone was sharp, worry creasing his brow. I smiled, letting the moment stretch. "The truth. But first, let's order. I'm starving." The waiter came and went, small talk fraying under the weight of unspoken grudges. Finally, Laura broke. "Sarah, please. We're family, aren't we?" I set down my fork, eyes locking on hers. "Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't play favorites with college funds. Family doesn't leave one kid to drown while the other gets a free ride." "Here we go," Claire muttered, rolling her eyes. "Poor Sarah, always the victim." Michael's grip tightened on his water glass. "Careful," he warned, his voice low. "No, let her talk," I said, leaning forward. "Tell us, Claire. How much have you taken from Mom and Dad? 40 grand for your condo down payment? 20 for that overpriced wedding? 100 for that failed startup you called a vision?" Claire paled, her bravado crumbling. "That's none of your business." "Wrong." I pulled out the papers, sliding them across the table. "It's my business when they show up begging for help. These are my conditions. 10 of them. Sign, and I'll save your Portland house. Refuse, and you're on your own." Claire snatched the documents, her face reddening as she read. "A public apology? Family therapy? Community service? This is insane." "No," Jessica cut in, her voice firm. "It's Sarah making you face what you did." One by one, they signed, their hands shaking. Dinner was over, but the real fight was just beginning. The Seattle rain drummed against my windows, a steady rhythm to the unease settling in my gut. It was barely noon when the doorbell rang, sharp and demanding. I opened the door to find Claire alone, her designer coat soaked, her eyes wild with desperation. She pushed past me into my living room, her heels clicking on the hardwood like a countdown. "We need to talk," she said, pacing, her voice fraying. "Before Mom and Dad get here." "By all means," I muttered, closing the door. "Come in." She spun to face me, hands running through her damp hair. "Look, I know I screwed up, but there's gotta be another way." "Those conditions? They'll ruin me." "Another way?" I crossed my arms, my voice cold as the drizzle outside. Like more loans? More lies? I can undo everything, Claire. Walk away now, and I will. Her face twisted, a mix of anger and fear. I just need time, Sarah. Please. Time. Jessica, lounging on my sofa, let out a sharp laugh. Like when Sarah was working graveyard shifts to pay for college while you blew her money in San Francisco? Claire whirled on her. This isn't about you. She's right, I said, my tone quiet but cutting. This is about responsibility. Something you've never faced. The doorbell rang again, right on cue. Laura and Robert stepped inside, their faces etched with exhaustion, like they hadn't slept since the dinner at Canlis. I gestured to the couch. Sit. We've got a lot to cover. Claire's pacing stopped, her shoulders slumping. I was trapped, Sarah. Mom and Dad, they gave me everything, but it came with strings. I couldn't say no. I leaned forward, unflinching. You had a choice, Claire. You could have walked away. Instead, you took my college fund, their savings, and kept asking for more. You knew what it cost me, and you didn't care. Laura's voice broke in, trembling. Sarah, please, we're here to fix this. Fix it? I stood, my shadow falling across them. You don't fix 15 years of betrayal with a conversation. You want my help? Meet my terms. Or lose everything. The room went still, their eyes locked on me, knowing I meant every word. The air in my Seattle living room felt thick, charged with years of unspoken pain. Laura, Robert, and Claire sat frozen, my last words lose everything hanging like a guillotine. I reached into my desk drawer, pulling out a folded letter, its edges worn from years of secret rereading. The sight of it made Laura's breath catch, her eyes widening with dread. Recognize this, Mom? I held it up, my voice steady but laced with old hurt. Found it in Claire's room when I was helping her pack for college. The college you paid for with my future. Laura's hands trembled. Sarah, where did you get that? I unfolded the paper, its words burned into my memory. Dear Claire, I began, my voice low, deliberate. I know you're worried about Sarah's attitude, but she's our backup plan. We only had her because the doctors thought you might not survive. You're our miracle. The room went deathly silent, the Seattle rain outside a faint murmur. Claire's face paled, her eyes darting to our parents. Robert stared at the floor, his jaw tight. I continued, I was 13 when I read this. 13 when I realized I was just your insurance policy. That's not true, Laura sobbed, her voice breaking. We loved you. Really? I stepped closer, the letter trembling slightly in my hand. Because that explains why you chose Claire every time. Why my straight-A report cards went ignored while her C's got framed. Why you drained my college fund without a second thought. We thought, Robert started, then stopped, his voice hollow. We thought Claire needed us more. I laughed, bitter and sharp. And I didn't? I tossed the letter onto the coffee table, its weight heavier than the paper itself. Here's the deal. I bought your Portland house at the foreclosure auction last week. It's mine now. You want to stay? Sign my conditions. Public apology. Family therapy. The works. Or you're out by Friday. Claire stood, shaking. You're cruel, Sarah. No, I said, meeting her gaze. I'm done being your backup. Now you all get to feel what I felt. The truth was out and there was no going back. The Seattle skyline loomed gray through my office window, a fitting backdrop to the storm brewing inside. I was mid-email when Claire burst in, mascara streaked, clutching crumpled papers. She'd somehow slipped past security, her eyes wild, reeking of last night's wine. You talked to David, she hissed, slamming the door. My ex-husband. I didn't look up from my laptop. He's got a lot to say. Credit cards, gambling, offshore accounts. Quite the resume you've built. She collapsed into the chair across my desk, voice breaking. How did you know? I'm good at my job, Claire. I closed my laptop, meeting her gaze. Something you and Dad never noticed. Did you bring the signed papers? She threw them at me, pages scattering. Mom and Dad signed. I won't. Then start packing. My voice was ice, unmoved by her trembling hands. You don't get it, she pleaded, leaning forward. I'll lose everything. My reputation, my friends. Like you lost a normal college life. I stood, towering over her. You made choices, Claire. I didn't get to. Security's footsteps echoed in the hall. Sign now or explain to them why you broke the law. I hate you, she whispered, grabbing the pen, her hand shaking as she scrawled her name across each page. Tears hit the paper, smudging the ink. No, I said, calm as the Puget Sound. You hate facing consequences. Security appeared at the door, but I waved them off. Claire stumbled to her feet, clutching her purse like a lifeline. As she left, Jessica slipped in with takeout, her eyes catching Claire's retreating figure. Your sister just ran past me crying. Nice meeting. She signed. I held up the papers, my voice steady, but my chest tight. They all did. So, what's next? Jessica asked, setting down the food. My phone buzzed Laura's name on the screen. We need to meet, her voicemail said. All of us, one last time. I looked at Jessica, the weight of the papers in my hand heavier than they should have been. Next, they faced the whole truth. No more hiding. Claire's breakdown was just the start. She'd cracked, but the real reckoning was coming. I'd make sure of it, not for revenge, but for the justice I'd been denied too long. My Seattle living room felt like a courtroom, the dim light casting shadows over Laura, Robert, and Claire. They sat across from me, Jessica and Michael at my sides, as Claire clutched a stack of papers, her hands trembling. She'd come alone, dressed in plain jeans, her usual designer flair gone. I want them to hear it from me, she said, her voice raw, and began reading. My first theft was at 16. I stole Mom's credit card for a prom dress. She paid it off, told me not to worry. That's where it started. Laura opened her mouth, but Claire raised a hand. Please, let me finish. She took a shaky breath. By college, I was burning thousands a month on clothes, parties, drugs. When Sarah's college fund went to my San Francisco tuition, I knew it was wrong. I told myself I deserved it. Her voice cracked. I forged Mom's signature on loans, drained their accounts, stole from David's company. The total $650,000. Laura gasped, swaying. $650,000, she whispered. Not counting Sarah's college fund, Claire continued, eyes down. Or what I borrowed from you. Over $1 million gone. Robert sank into the couch, his face ashen. Why? Because I could, Claire said, tears falling. Because you taught me money was love, and I craved love. I stayed silent, watching them unravel. Claire's voice steadied. I sent my confession to the bank and David. I'm turning myself in tomorrow. No, Laura sobbed. We can fix this. That's the problem, Mom, I said, my voice cutting through. You always fix things for Claire. Look where that got us. Claire met my eyes, resolute. Sarah didn't make me do this. She gave me a choice. I chose the truth. Robert laughed, bitter. The truth? We failed, both of you. No, I corrected, standing. You failed Claire by never saying no. You failed me by never caring. The room fell silent, their guilt a heavy fog. Claire's confession had shattered their illusions, and I let them sit with it, the wreckage of their choices laid bare. The Seattle therapy office felt like a battlefield, Dr. Larson's calm presence the only anchor. I sat on one couch, Laura and Robert on another, Claire's empty chair a silent ghost between us. The rain tapped the windows, mirroring the tension inside. Laura spoke first, voice trembling. Claire's not here. She's in court today. I know, I said, my tone even. David told me. 6 months, probation, rehab. Robert's eyes flashed with anger. Did you push her to turn herself in? Dr. Larson leaned forward. Robert, is that what hurts most? Claire facing consequences. I'm angry because Sarah's tearing us apart, he snapped. I leaned back, voice soft but sharp. Your family was broken long before I spoke up. I'm just making you see the ruins. Dr. Larson nodded. Let's start there. How did we get here? Laura clutched a tissue. We thought we did our best. Best? I couldn't hold back. Your best was telling me I didn't deserve college. Watching me work dangerous shifts while you funded Claire's shopping sprees. We didn't know she was addicted, Robert protested. But you knew I was hurting, I shot back. You just didn't care. Dr. Larson raised a hand. Sarah, tell them how you feel. I turned to my parents, my voice steady but raw. I felt worthless. Like a failed backup plan. That letter, Mom, calling me your insurance policy, you meant it. Laura flinched, whispering I did. Robert's phone buzzed. He paled, reading it. Claire got 6 months. Rehab's mandatory. Good, I said firmly. She needs it. How can you be so cold? Laura cried. Dr. Larson interjected. Is that cold or healthy? Robert shook his head. How did we end up here? I pulled out my old diary, opening to a marked page. At 13, I wrote, Today I learned I'm no one's miracle. Mom and Dad only kept me because they feared Claire would die. I'm just a backup. Laura sobbed. Robert looked gut-punched. What do you want now, Sarah? Dr. Larson asked. I want them to feel my pain. To know what it's like to be Plan B. Help us understand, Laura pleaded. I stood, facing the window. Come to my office tomorrow. See who I am. One chance to meet the daughter you might finally respect. The autumn breeze rustled through the Portland Rehab Center's garden, carrying the scent of damp earth. I sat across from Claire, her paper coffee cup crumpled from nervous fidgeting. She looked healthier, stripped of her designer armor, but smaller, vulnerable. You actually came, she said, voice soft, surprised. Dr. Larson insisted, I replied, pausing. Maybe she's onto something. Claire set the cup down. Mom and Dad told me about your office visit. Dad wouldn't shut up about your board presentation. I shrugged, a half-smile tugging at my lips. Guess their backup plan paid off. Sarah. Her eyes met mine, serious. I saw the college fund papers during the audit. The exact amount I took. I'm calculating it with interest. Why? I asked, leaning forward. To pay you back. Every cent. It'll take years, but... Keep it, I cut in, voice firm. Use it for therapy, rehab, staying clean. Don't waste this chance. She stared, stunned. I don't deserve your kindness. It's not kindness, I said. It's an investment in you changing. That night, I found Laura and Robert on my Seattle porch, their faces weary but open. They'd been in my guest house 3 weeks, following my rules, attending therapy. How's Claire? Laura asked as I approached. Better. Different. I unlocked the door. Come in. We need to talk. They sat on my couch. The air between us lighter, shifted. Robert spoke first. Dr. Larson mentioned generational trauma. My dad treated me the way I treated you. I chose wrong. Laura handed me an envelope. We wrote this. A letter to the family, confessing everything how we hurt you, enabled Claire, failed as parents. I read it slowly, every word raw. The stolen fund, the favoritism, the regret. There's more, Laura said. We're selling the antique shop. Your life's work. I looked up, shocked. No, Robert corrected. Our excuse to avoid our failures. The money's split evenly between you and Claire. Half goes to a scholarship for kids like you were. I sat back, their sincerity disarming. This doesn't fix everything. Nothing can, Laura agreed. But maybe we can build something honest. My phone pinged Claire's message. Thanks for today. I'm not chasing perfect anymore, just better. I showed them. Robert's eyes softened. Our daughters are stronger than we knew. No, I said, standing. But maybe because of this fight, this truth. Sunday dinner, here. Claire's out of rehab for the weekend. I'm cooking. No promises beyond that. They nodded, leaving quietly. I called Michael. They're trying, I said. So am I. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But something new, built from ashes.